Eamon, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM. AM 630. WMAL.
Karen Henready's in for Mary Catherine. We'll be back on Monday. Brian Eamon, Brian Wilson. Former Senator George Allen, former Congressman George Allen on the line with us right now. Big debate yesterday afternoon with Tim Kaine. Senator, I want to get to that debate. I do want to ask you to start off, though. A lot of people, they want to flee Washington right now. Politicians and people around town, they want to get away from Washington. You want to come back here. Why do you want to come back and be in politics?
And Brian and Karen, the reason is that I look at our future as being decided in Washington. I look at this 2012 election as really being pivotal in determining the direction of our country. And either we're going to continue declining or we can begin ascending again. And every vote counts in the U.S. Senate. They passed that health care monstrosity by one vote on Christmas Eve. They passed this stimulus spending, which hasn't created jobs and added to our debt. That passed by one vote. So every vote counts. And the Senate can be a frustrating place. And in the past, I even said it moves at the pace of a wounded seed slug. But I think there's a tremendous urgency to get our country going in the right direction. And I look at this 2012 election as one really setting the course for the history of our country. And I think it's every bit as important as the 1980 election when Ronald Reagan beat President Carter. And we just can't continue going down this path. Now, Tim Kaine thinks everything is fine. He doesn't mind, that the debt has been increased by 41% in the last 3 years. And so, and the other thing is our energy policies in our country. My goodness, we're blessed with the most energy resources in the world, and the people in Washington look at it as a curse. And if we unleash our energy resources, and Virginia's a prime place where we'd like to be able to explore for oil and gas off our coast.
All right. And
President Obama and those who support him say no. And then they lend $2 billion to the state-owned oil company of Brazil to let them explore for oil off their coast. And there's just certain things that I feel passionately about, and I want to be a voice for the people of Virginia.
I want to talk to you about your strategy, because a lot of your strategy in this debate seemed to be an effort to pin Tim Kaine to the policies of Barack Obama. Now, Obama won in Virginia. Now, I think that the landscape has certainly changed since then, but is that an effective strategy that will help you win?
Well, I think there's two big differences between Tim and myself. On every significant issue, he has been supporting President Obama, whether it's Obamacare, whether it's this stimulus spending, whether it's the counterproductive energy policies. It's one thing after another. And we have two very different visions of the future. I don't think things are going well with the policies that he's been advocating. Our unemployment rates have been over 8% in our country for the last 34 months, and they said the stimulus, for example, would jumpstart the economy. It obviously has not. This health care measure is first of all, for seniors, it's making it more expensive and denying some or reducing coverage and services to many, particularly with Medicare Advantage. And for employers, especially small businesses who create most of the jobs, I've been hearing from people how if they have, say, between 40 and 100 employees, this added cost of employment, of providing health insurance, is a real impediment for hiring anyone on. And so I think there's so many more positive, constructive, proven ideas that will reinvigorate the entrepreneurial spirit of our country with the right economic, the right energy, the right policies to get our country in a way that we're saying to the world, America is open for business again by reducing taxes on job-creating businesses, unleashing our American energy resources, and reining in this overreaching federal government. And Tim Kaine has a completely different point of view. And for our children and other people's children and grandchildren, we got to get this country turned around, and we need to do it with a great deal of urgency.
Senator, or soon-to-be senator, former senator.
Thanks, Karen.
Hi. Congress has just an all-time low approval rating. Nothing is happening. There's a lot of gridlock, perhaps like we've never seen before. No one expects anything to happen in Congress before the presidential election. So 2013, you are the next U.S. Senator of Virginia. You have a lot of great ideas. I agree with every single one of them. How do you get anything done in such a such a polarized Congress.
Well,
and admitting that the Senate moves slowly.
yeah, I think there's more people in the Senate now, though, that don't like just dawdling and delaying than there was previously. And there's a lot of new blood coming in. Some of the folks I've actually helped get elected when I was in the U.S. Senate. And I think people realize that this is a pivotal time in not just our election in Virginia, which will determine, in my view, who's in a majority. If we win in Virginia, I think most observers realize then the Republicans, conservatives will be in a majority. And watching a lot of the gridlock that's happening in Washington, if you look at it closely, it's the United States Senate. The House is passing initiatives. President Obama is making pronouncements, but the House is passing a lot of initiatives, and they just get over the Senate. And the Senate hasn't even passed a budget for 930 days and running. And it's and any idea from the House just dries up like a glass of water in the desert. And so when it gets to the Senate, so the Senate's where the slowdown is by Senator Reid. So we need to change the leadership in the United States Senate. And on some of these issues, when they're talking about we need more revenues, well, if we unleashed our American energy resources, the federal government not only would have revenues from the hundreds of thousands of jobs, good-paying jobs created, more affordable energy, and keeping money here in the United States of America, the federal government could actually be getting well over $1 trillion in revenues without raising taxes. So every time they say, oh, gosh, we need more revenues, well, the way to do it is not by raising taxes and burdening small business owners. The way to do it is utilizing our energy resources, which ends up raising revenues as well as helping people at their kitchen tables and not paying as much when they fill up for fuel. So,
Senator Allen?
I'm going to be like a dog on a bone on that issue. And every time it comes up, I'm going to be advocating it and running on this agenda.
Right. Got about a minute left. There are a lot of Tea Party supporters who listen to us who think that you are part of the problem in Washington, a big spending Republican. Can you ease their concerns, and did you learn anything in your last few years in the Senate that you would do differently this time around?
Well, there's a lot of things that you learn with it, and as senator, I saw that there was a spending problem, and it's even worse. The spending's gotten much worse, but it was bad then. And I was one of about a dozen to vote against the bridge to nowhere in Alaska, and I think more than ever we need to impose a discipline in Washington that I've long advocated, and that's a balanced budget constitutional amendment, which would be the first bill that I'd introduce, along with line-item veto authority for the president. I used it as governor, and I think that's the key thing is we need to get spending under control, but it's not just the cutting and spending, is we really do need to reinvigorate our economy, and it's done with the right tax, regulatory, and energy policies.
Right.
And it's something, being out of office, you see what's going on in the real world.
Right.
And that's what I would bring, that passion and reinvigoration to.
All right. Senator, we're out of time. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Morning Majority.
The pleasure's all mine. Y'all have a great day.